It is a little bit different to the bike, but it still needs to be specific. If you're training for a sprint distance compared to an Ironman, there's definitely more speed involved in a sprint distance running. And if we looked at the bike, obviously you're riding faster on the bike, but it doesn't create a real tolerance of pain as it does on the run. If you're trying to run fast, because the bike's holding you up, you're just really using leg muscles. When you're running, the whole skeletal system is being pressured to function at a really high extreme standard. So you need to have actually practiced that at some stage. So we do things like we might do every block some sort of testing where you are running to a 5, 10, 15, 20k time trial. So you do get that exposure to that intensity, plus the run where you're running not off the bike. So in terms of intensity, yes, there is a definite importance of running with intensity, but it's not the majority of the sessions compared to swimming and riding. You need to really pull back on the other sessions. And we talked about 4 or 5 running sessions. Well, there would only be one that I said in the initial statement that should have some intensity, and that varies according to the year. So we're not disregarding intensity, but the injury factor by running too hard, too often, is going to be greater, and you won't get to the start line if you're injured. It will derail your whole program. So don't take that risk. The fitter you are as a runner, the more your body can cope with the high intensity. So if you start to do intensity without having a good base fitness, you are exposing yourself to risking injury straight away off the bat. And in your own training, Jordan, I'm forever telling you when you start a new program, how fit are you? Go out and do some endurance, some strength, some hills. Not at fast pace, just build that solid skeletal system where you can stand up and run downhill, uphill, and not come off the run sore. You don't have to run with high intensity to get a good workout to build your fitness base. So it's so important that we have a variety of sessions in our run that relate to what the requirements of the race are. So we need to run some running intensity that reflects the intensity of the race, and that's different between marathon in an Ironman and a 5k sprint in a sprint event, or a 10k in an Olympic. The intensities are vastly different. So, to become a better runner, sure, just like becoming a better rider, you need to improve your FTP. To become a better runner, you actually need to improve your 10k time or your 5k time, so that to run a better marathon, you need to be a faster runner. So get your base fitness, get your intensity, get your ride runs going together. They're the components that are going to make you become a better runner at the back end of an Ironman or a triathlon, because it is not a running race. It does become a running race in the race, but it is a bike running race. And the less time you spend doing that, the worse you're going to be in that running race in a triathlon.
So you're saying most of the sessions should be lower intensity and just practicing running, and only one session should be high intensity.
Yep. At this particular stage of whether you're a pro triathlete or whether you're an age group or you're just a newbie first timer, as you get closer to the race day, then the intensities increase. So as the further away you are from the preparation of race day, the intensities are really low. So you progressively work your way as you become fitter and your body can withstand the intensities that we're going to throw at it. So it's not fair to say it's just one. It's going to be a gradual build. And this is completely different to swimming and riding. Obviously, you need to build your fitness in swimming and riding, but not at the same conservative rate that we do as a runner. And we spoke about that just before. It's to prevent you not getting to the line through injury. And the risk is huge. And I'm not prepared. Having experienced injury in my career as a triathlete, my calf injuries derailed so many seasons in my career that in the end it was the undoing of me. I couldn't run anymore. And no matter how fit I got as a swimmer and rider, an injury in the run, you're no longer able to execute your race plan, and it is very frustrating. So the risk is too high, in my opinion, for people to just go all out and train with high intensity without having the fitness to back it up.
Is there anything else on running specificity that you want to touch on that people are making a mistake with?
I don't think you can underestimate the value of endurance in your running. I've got countless examples, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, of athletes, trail runners that we do 100K, 100 mile, 50K, 75K, 100 mile, that's a long way, 160K. Yeah. And the endurance they've done for those for those events in training, they have been able to do PBs across 5K, 10K, 15, 20K without doing very much intensity. And that is so important for our listeners to understand. Endurance is really important. It gives you that strength, as we talked about on the bike, at the end of an event such as a 10K, the last 2-3K, where it really, really counts, and you're trying to hold say you're holding 4-minute K pace, and all of a sudden you drop into 4:04, 4:05. If you've got the endurance in your legs from running long, steady state endurance runs with strength and hills, you can go back to holding 4-minute K pace and possibly running 3:56, 3:54 and improving a PB. You fall apart with lack of endurance base behind you. Big endurance base, you come home strong. So that the back end of a triathlon, that is the key when all the other competitors in your age group can be falling apart because they're not able to sustain because of the endurance lacking in their training. So sure, you need intensity. You need to practice riding and running off the bike, but you need to have that really good endurance base. And that's not something you do, 2 or 3 times a week. It's spread out so that, on occasions you might do a really big event, but all the rest of the remaining times you're building from January till October. Building that base up, your endurance run will get progressively longer and longer, allowing your body to slowly, cautiously sustain the prolonged endurance training.
And that comes back to a point we've spoken about previously, where you need to give yourself enough time to prepare. You need to give yourself enough time to build that base. And 12 weeks out from triathlon, you're not giving yourself the best chance of building up that base. You can do it, and for a triathlon, you might just have to because you've started too late, and that's fine. But for the next one...
Yeah, and look, don't underestimate the recovery, George. And, recovery from running is so much longer than recovery from riding and swimming because you're holding yourself up. Gravity is against you, and you just get so tired from running compared to riding and swimming. It's a different feeling in swimming. It's a lot more upper body, a lot more cardio because you're breathing in water, out of water. It's high intensity. The bike, you can do endurance riding and not really hurt yourself. You can be riding for 4 or 5 hours at a really easy tempo. You have a fatigue feeling, but you don't have the same musculoskeletal pain and that you've experienced yourself after a long run in the hills. And you really feel that the next day. Your legs are like, oh, geez, I've still got that leg pain there. So the recovery needs to be really mindful in the actual planning of your program, and that's so different to the other 2 legs of a triathlon. So the longer that you give yourself to build that period, as you said before, 12 week compared to 16, compared to 25, compared to 50, you just don't have that struggle with recovery because your body is adapting slowly, progressively, inch by inch, week by week, day by day, week by week, month by month, until a program that involves 120K of running a week compared to what you're doing at 50K in January feels the same because your body's adapted to the gradual progression. So that's why it's important not to just go on a running program for triathlon events that is just based like a normal runner would do. As I would prepare for a marathon runner, I'm preparing him completely different as compared to a triathlete.
Yeah, makes sense. So take us through mistake number 3, and that is...
Yep.
Unless you had something else you wanted to talk about.
I just wanted to say, on equipment, before we move away from that, the running shoes. I mean, obviously your triathlon suit has got to be comfortable for running. and that goes without saying. And you need to have practiced running in your suit when it's wet and sweaty, because it's not fresh and dry when you go to run. The shoes. The shoes are something that is really important in preventing injury. So you need to find, and I'm not going to advocate any brand of shoes, it's specific to you. And you need to find, if you've had an injury from a particular shoe, it might not be the shoe that's doing it. It's obviously, there could be a structural problem with your muscles that are causing the injury, but the shoe might contribute to that. So,
although one shoe specifically that you love, that the world champion just signed to, and this is not a sponsorship thing, we don't have anything to do with Hoka, but Jan Frodeno just signed with Hoka, and you love the Hokas.
Yeah, the Hokas seem to be, I call them the old man shoe, but now that Jan Frodeno's wearing them, they're no longer the old man shoe, they're the world champion shoe. But they've certainly got more cushion, and when I tried to do some running comebacks, that was a shoe that enabled me to come back a lot longer before I eventually injured myself again. So don't do as I do as I say. That's what But definitely a shoe that's going to give you more stability, more cushioning, not stress the Achilles, not stress your calves. You need to pick something that's actually going to really suit you, and to get the best advice, like a bike fit, get the best advice from a podiatrist or a running podiatrist. And the second thing I want to say about the shoes is, don't buy a brand new pair of shoes for race day. You need to have worn them in. So have 2 pairs of shoes going. Have your one pair of shoes that you're training in, and every now and then, I would say twice a week when you're doing or once a week when you're doing your more intense session, use the newer shoes there. And then another day, but don't do it on the endurance day, because that's going to be a new shoe for a long period. You want to do the run off the bikes where it's shorter. So break the shoes in gradually. So come race day, you want to have a pair of shoes that you've been running in for probably 150k, 100 to 150k, and that would be perfectly suited for race day.